Well, hey there. It's Brian McFarland here with our next episode of Owning the Goal. Well, welcome to Owning the Goal. This is a podcast that helps you take charge of your sales and life success. And as you know already, I'm your host, Brian, and I look forward to sharing insights and inspiration from my 40-year career as a sales leader and human being. Like you, I'm more than just a salesperson, which is why this isn't just a podcast about sales. I'll talk about my other passions too, like books, sports, music, and mental health, and how they all relate to hitting our goals because success in sales is success in life. So welcome everybody, and pretty casual episode here because I've been away for a while and I've missed you, and hopefully you've missed me too. I let my algorithms drop down and all sorts of things, but with good reason. But now we're just gonna get ourselves back on track. I don't have a beverage sponsor yet because none of this is about monetization. It's about sharing, caring, and inspiring others. So what I hope you get out of today's episode is a recheck-in from me in truly caring about you. And today the topic of our discussion is going to be called authentic wealth. And where this comes from, always need to give credit. I've been reading the amazing book by Robin Sharma, one of my favorite authors. This one's called The Mastery Manual. He's written so many great books. Another one I'm reading is called The 5 a.m. Club. Many authors have written about the benefits of waking up at 5 a.m. They're pretty obvious, but we're going to do a separate episode that will be a book review, if you will, about the 5 a.m. Club. I'm reading it, I think, for the third time and still learning from it. But the big challenge I'll offer you, and by the way, if I start coughing, I apologize. I'll try and mute because I'm still coming off of getting COVID-19 coming back from Italy, but that's a whole nother discussion. But I'm not going to give you COVID-19, and not, at least not through the technology. But there's 5 different types, as Robin lays out in his book, of wealth, and that all lead to the aggregation of those, what he calls authentic wealth. And I've set up, I'll read from the book some of the things that he mentioned, defines what those are, at least in his eyes. And then I'll ask you, if you'd like, to, as you listen to this, perhaps jot those things down mentally or putting pen to paper and truly ask yourself, as I went through this exercise, it was just really helpful for me. So maybe it's helpful for you to grade yourself. Simple scale of 0 to 10. How do you feel you're doing if you check in on these areas of wealth that will bring to you? And noting the date in which you journal these things, and I hope many of you do journal. It's a really wonderful way to just put down thoughts and get in touch with yourself. And there's scientific backed evidence that just putting pen or pencil to paper does so many amazing things for us in our learning and our memory. I saved you from the big cough there. So that's what we're about today. So it's towards an improved health check, which couldn't we all use? So also, if haven't yet, I've shown you I've got my own custom postcards thanks to my designer, Dylan Costa. Owning the Goal of Success in Sales is Success in Life, and a message from Brian. I try and send several of these out a day as just part of my daily ritual. So let's jump right into the episode. So in chapter 13 of his book, The Mastery Manual, again from Robin Sharma, he says, and I quote, "What is wealth? There are many forms of wealth. It is not purely economic. It's not the richest person, whatnot." Again, his thoughts. but I really subscribe to this philosophy. So what he mentions is, but to him, there are 5 forms of wealth. Here we go. First, economic wealth. Second, relationship wealth. Third, physical wealth. Fourth, adventure wealth. And 5, what he calls psychic wealth, which is all about filling your life with meaning. His line is, if one doesn't attend to each of these, I believe they will live a hollow life. So we're going to dive into each one. And it was in an interview that I did with Susan Robbins, where she said something that was so great, and shout out to Susan, where she said in the end of part of the therapy that she does is she wants her clients to make sure that when they pass on from this planet, that they meet the person that they could have always been, and that they are. Meaning, from her brilliant mind, that we achieved everything that we could be, because we're all given such a gift to wake up and breathe every day, and for which I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful to you, the listener, that you're listening at this moment. So what I did and what I will share here is being transparent and humble. Is the reason I've been away for a while, by the way, is I took my first trip to Italy with my life partner, Marisa. And I haven't been many places outside the Caribbean and the United States. I did go to Switzerland once. That was fantastic. But this trip to Italy was for my cousin's destination wedding. And it was up in Tuscany. So those of you who've been to Italy know how amazing of a country it is, and people there are, and the history behind it. I did not know. We flew into Rome, spent several days in Rome, toured the Vatican City and the Sistine Chapel. Words can't do it justice, but to say some of the most beautiful and educational and inspirational things and accomplishments that I've ever seen in my entire life. Made me think differently about so much. Then to go to the Colosseum and see where all the rulers of Italy had lived, and the emperors of Rome and whatnot, and learn about the history in just several days. And then we headed over to the west coast of Italy, so we were 15 minutes away from the Mediterranean. Got to go to this incredible beach and swimming in the Mediterranean, which was just incredible. My traveling companion made this all possible with her excellent guidance on our journey. And then we finished up the journey driving north up into Tuscany, and experienced the most wonderful, beautiful, tasteful, classy weddings and gatherings and rehearsal dinner amongst many Europeans and people from the United States and Canada that I've ever experienced. And so many learnings from there. I'll probably do a whole episode about my adventures in Italy. Should be you be so interested, but suffice it to say, if you haven't been, certainly go. It will be incredibly awesome, and something I feel so blessed and grateful to have experienced. So while in Italy, I was reading my book, and so I got to this chapter on authentic wealth, which is actually only 2 pages, and it was so impactful to me, I immediately said, this is what I want to do my next solo episode on. So to define things, and then I'll tell you my scores. So first off, economic wealth. Again, Robin Sharma saying it. Economic wealth is obvious. Money is important to live your best life. It takes money to travel or to pay for your children's tennis lessons or pay for university. However, it's just one form of wealth. If one have just economic wealth, it doesn't lend itself to having authentic wealth. So I graded myself on a scale of 1 to 10, and I gave myself a 6. So what does that say? There's lots of room for improvement there. And why I say that in the second half of my life is I have to really start learning to save better, to invest better, and to be more frugal about things, so that to retirement I can give back more, and then also be able to fund travel and adventures, because adventure wealth is a big part of the components of authentic wealth. So thus, when giving myself a real grade, 6 out of 10, not so great, but I'm being honest with myself and with you, the listener, and saying, well, there's a lot of room for growth there. And if you've got a score higher than 6, great for you. If you got a score lower than 6, great for you. You've got you've got as much growth as I have, if not more. But I think a good barometer to ask oneself, certainly was for me, about this area, and thus that would be my score. So I'm going to tally them up at the end and say, out of 50, which would be the most authentic, wealthy person that I feel that I could be, we'll see how I do. So that's number 1. Relationship wealth. I want to be accurate. You can hear the fire engines outside. Relationship wealth. Where does it go here? Sorry. Relationship wealth, I'm doing them out of order, is this form of wealth is feeling a sense of passion within your heart, and wealthy in terms of, no, that's adventure wealth, in your loving other human beings and forging a strong and loving community around you. One must have relationship wealth. This is all about feeling connected. So in relationship wealth, I gave myself a 7, and that is on the rise, because I've grown that. I would say it was probably about a 4 several years ago, and I worked really hard in so many areas, from meeting my life companion, to rebuilding relationships with my family, with closing up my circle of friends and keeping better communications with them, and then also spreading out love to new people in my life that I've met. So 7 out of 10, what does that mean, Brian? Well, certainly room for growth, and I'm on a really good path, I feel, to continue that growth, and I see down the road a 10 certainly within my sights. So we've got a 6 and a 7. So we got 13 out of 20 so far. That's how we're doing. Number 3, physical wealth. I got a great quote here from Robin. One must also build physical wealth. Without your good health, you really have nothing. I love this line. I don't want it to be too depressing, but it's inspiring. No one wants to be the richest person in the graveyard. When I read that on our flight, both to and from Italy, wow, what an impact that have. How many times have we heard of billionaires that pass away and no one comes to their funeral, right? So it's just master of the obvious kind of point of money doesn't buy happiness. It can sometimes buy loneliness. This was my tied for highest score, where I gave myself an 8. Why I gave myself an 8 is because I'm physically fit, can always get more improved, but I spend at least 6 days a week doing some form of exercise, if not 7, and then also make sure that I continuously eating healthier, eating more from the earth, eating more natural things, less processed things. And I will say, eating in Italy was just so incredible. The lack of preservatives and processed food that they use over there, everything we seemed to be eating was picked, several hours before we were actually so wonderfully consuming it. So it really led to a spiritual and almost like a physical cleanse, of oneself. And since I've been back from Italy, even during and after getting COVID, I felt like when I eat now, I'm really trying to eat things that have not been through processes or not canned items or not things that you look at an expiration date and you see it's 10 years down the road. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. What was the joke that used to be about Twinkies is they'd put an expiration date 20 years from now. So can that really be a healthy product for you? I personally don't think so. So my physical wealth, I gave myself an 8. So I'd encourage you to ask, how are you doing with that? What are you doing to exercise your heart, your mind? But that's going to get into psychic wealth, but your body, moving yourself, taking care of things that need fixing. But really, it boils down to what you're filling your body with and filling it with wonderful things that are really from the earth or from the sea. Being fish, obviously, is generally going to lead to a longer life, a better life with less ailments. So I got a 6 and a 7 and an 8. So we're moving in a positive direction. Number 4, adventure wealth. I thought this would be great. This form of wealth is all about feeling a sense of passion within your heart and wealthy in terms of the adventures you experience as you journey through the days. Adventure wealth might be built by taking exotic trips or experiencing micro adventures such as trying a new type of food or having new conversations with an interesting person, right? That's so cool. So it's not about money. You don't need to have all this money to go visit other countries and all these other things. I mean, that's certainly helpful. But you could just stop and talk to somebody in New York City where I live that you would never talk to. And as I sometimes do, and talk to cab drivers and Lyft drivers all the time, and it's in some of my past episodes, I've even talked about that. I learned so much on those drives and those journeys about so many people because we all come from different backgrounds and different lives. That's how I feel I'm doing with my adventure wealth. So I gave myself a 7.5 because I'm starting to adventure more. And I was coming back from Italy when I wrote up this outline, if you will. So I'm driven now to travel more, to talk to people more, and to get more passion in my heart for the things that I do each and every day. And number 5 is psychic health. I really, really, really love this. To be authentically wealthy, each of us must create psychic wealth. The deepest need, listen to these words if you would, the deepest need of the human heart is to live for something more important than ourselves. Lasting happiness can only come from what we give to the world and those around us as opposed to what we receive. Psychic wealth is all about living for a cause greater than ourselves. I'll go into that in a second, but working on each of these 5 forms of wealth will inspire you to reach higher, dream bigger, and to enjoy genuine fulfillment as you savor the blessings that is called your life. So, wow, I hope that touches you as much as it touched me, and I'm communicating effectively to give your health check, right? It's like bringing your car into the shop or going for your physical, if you will. So psychic health, I gave myself an 8, which is greatly improved in the last few years. And I definitely think it also has a lot to do with getting older and wiser. I'm 57 and a half right now, so I thought about my 58th birthday coming up. Some of my soccer friends just recently turned 60. Excuse me, saved you from a cough there. So I've started to realize, at least for myself, that in this second half of life, that it's the time when I'm trying to step away from being from being selfish to try to be selfless as much as I possibly can. I've been given so many gifts by my family for having me and raising me, my life partner for doing all the things that she does for me every day, my children who has given me so much and such meaning to life, and that fact that they're on the planet, and will hopefully be here for many years after I have departed. I get it now, is what I'll say. I get it that, as an old boss and coach said to me, I've quoted this before in past episodes, but I'll say it again, on his deathbed, will he ever think about how much money he made or the houses that he had or the cars that he drove? And he won't remember any of that, but he'll remember how many people's lives he touched and he truly made better because of the interactions that they had with him. So, not being too crunchy and granola, just telling you from my heart, that's really my big part of my purpose now, is listening, learning, and when asked, sharing my own story, as I do with each episode here on Owning the Goal, of hoping people can pick up snippets of things that they find inspirational to them, and perhaps then asking themselves, not as it relates to what I've shared, but in this case, hey, if I even have one person who comes out of this episode and wrote down, hey, I'm going to give myself an authentic wealth check. What's my economic health? What's my economic wealth? What's my relationship health? What's my physical health? What is my adventure health or wealth? And what is my psychic health or wealth? And then add those all up. Drum roll, please. So we're going to do 6 plus 7 plus 8. Used to be so good at math. So that's 21. Plus 7.5, 28.5. And then another 8. So 36.5. So 36.5 out of a total of 50. What that tells me is that I have a lot of work to do. More importantly, I have a lot of room to grow. And in that growth will come positive things from first myself, but more importantly, as I just stated, for the other people that I'm blessed to have around me or have come into my life in some capacity. So I'm hopeful that, if anything, you give yourself the quiz and really think about it. It's such a fun exercise to journal. You don't have to do it in 10 minutes. You don't have to do it in 10 hours. You don't have to do it in 10 days. But take out a piece of paper and write down those 5 things if you like, and ask yourself, 1 to 10, where are you at with these things? Because I just feel it's a good exercise for us all to do. And I mentioned it to several people in Italy, and they were really thought it was a compelling thing. And some people came back to me after I didn't see them for the night, and they came back the next day and they said, what was your score? And it's not important what my score was. If you care to share your score with me, let me know. And then they would tell me, some told me they were in the 40s. Some people told me they were in the 20s. The majority of people told me they were in the 30s. So I was so tickled that they took it upon themselves to give themselves a authentic wealth check. I'll be really tickled if you, as a listener, even one of you, gives yourself an authentic wealth check, and that it inspires you to push up those numbers, because you have control of all of these 5 things. You have tremendous control about the way that you run your life and that you interact with yourself, you treat yourself, and you treat other people. So I don't want to belabor the point or overstay my welcome in your ears or however you're listening to this, but I do want to say thank you. It is with great gratitude that I get to share with an audience that I've left hanging for a little while, but hopefully I'm back into your life and can offer some form of hopeful wisdom or something from what a simple book meant to me, and how I thought I could use that for myself and then extend it out to the hopefully growing platform that is the Owning the Goal community, if you will. So it's with love and gratitude that I say thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me your most valuable resource, which is your time, and giving yourself a little bit of a check and striving to be the best person that you know you can be. And for all of us, I hope whatever your score is, that even if you can move it 1 point, or as a lot of people say, if you can even just get 1% better every month or one every day, how much is that going to mean in a compounded way towards your future? So that being said, Brian McFarland, Owning the Goal, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll get back on a more regularly scheduled program in the very near future. So with gratitude, thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evening, day, week, morning, whenever you listen to this ahead, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.